Major funding for this program is made possible by grants from Bank of America and Perfect Building Maintenance, GREENBERG TRAURIG, LLP, New York Community Bank, Kilroy Metal Products, New York Window Company, Capital One Bank. Additional funding for this program is made possible by grants from Akron Gold Brothers, LLC, Briarwood Organization, C.B. Richard ELLIS, Cushman & Wakefield, First American Title Insurance Company of New York, F.J. SCIAME, FRIEDMAN LLP, Gemini Real Estate Advisors, Hal Fettner Durst Fettner Residential, James D. Kuhn Real Estate Institute at Syracuse University, James Orphanides, Madison Realty Capital, Meridian Capital Group, M&T Bank, Massey Knackle Realty Services, Muss Development, NEWMARK Knight Frank, Sterling & Sterling, Stonehenge Partners, the Moynihan Group, Urban American, W Financial Mortgage Fund.
Hello, my name is Michael Stoller. Welcome to Building New York. You know, there are people who have been responsible for building housing all over Long Island, Brooklyn, Queens, the Bronx, for the New York City Partnership. And today I'm very fortunate to have Michael Dubb, the principal and founder of the Beechwood Organization.
Thank you.
So, you know, I always like going from the roots. You were born 53 years ago in Mount Sinai Hospital, and you grew up in Long Island, right?
Yes, I grew up in East Williston, Long Island.
And you had an interesting background. You said, you know, you were selling newspapers at the beginning, but at about the age of 12, you decided to go into the landscaping business, or should we say the lawn mowing business?
Well, I was somewhat different than other kids. At that age, they were looking, you know, to see what sports they could play after school and what summer camp they would go to. And I just really didn't have a lot of interest in it. For some unexplainable reason, but maybe we'll figure it out in the show, I was always entrepreneurial. So I started out at, I guess, age 12 with a paper route, and then I had 2 paper routes, and then I cleaned garages, and I'd wash cars, and eventually started mowing lawns. I would do anything to make a buck, and I would spend my summers doing that and working after school. I just wanted to always get ahead.
But you know, it's interesting because, you know, you were telling me your grandfather and then your father went into the business. You were really, you know, you could have gone into the family business, which was in the furniture business.
That's correct.
You know, but it was a strange furniture business. It was a different type of furniture business than today. People would come in, they would have the layaways, and, you know, sometimes they'd come in, sometimes they left. So by the time you were about 17, you graduated in East Williston, you said to me you were mowing about 50 lawns.
Yeah, I was mowing lawns all through high school. Probably when I was 14 years old, I mowed 30 lawns at about $10 a lawn. $300 for a kid in high school was pretty good pocket change 35, 40 years ago. And when I graduated high school, I had a pickup truck, and I had people working for me, and I was entrepreneurial, and anywhere from 50, 60, 70 lawns. And it wasn't a bad life. In the winter, I would take my van, which I also used for my landscaping business, and head to Florida.
Not bad. I mean, as you said to me, college wasn't really the market. You spent a couple of months at Farmingdale in gardening, and then you went to the library one day because you said, you know, you couldn't, you know, do Michael Dubb landscaper. You decided that you went to the library and you created a new name for your landscaping business.
Well, you know, from about the years, but most of my contemporaries were in college, I was really status quo, making a nice living, going to Florida. But about the age of 21, I said, I've got to step this up. I've got to create an image. I've got to take this business to the next level. So I decided to create a business and market it and have logos and what I thought would be a catchy name. The name of the company, and this was after research in the library, was Xanadu Landscapes. And I found that out by reading a dictionary at the library, that Xanadu was a mythical place that was named after, it was from a poem, and it was supposed to be a place of lush green growth and vegetation. But it turned out to be a very, very poor name, because when I chose the name Xanadu, it was before the movie, the theme parks, the hotels, the nightclub, and people couldn't pronounce it. They would go Xandu, Xandu, and the name of a company should roll off the tip of your tongue and be easy to pronounce. Then the movie came out and everything came out, and Xanadu kind of became a household word. But I believe I had it first.
But you know, when you started Xanadu, you also then changed the focus of your business. You left the residential, the lawn mowing of housing, and you decided to go out after the commercial. You went after the commercial office buildings, and then there was then I'd say probably what really changed your life, definitely changed your life. You were doing lawns for a bank called Reliance Savings, and you met Randy Nielsen and his father. Randy was the vice president, and his father was the chairman of the board of the bank. And what happened? Something about construction jobs and...
Well, that's correct. When I kind of branded my company, I tried to take it to the next level. I was landscaping a lot of newly built condominiums on Long Island. They had a lot of construction issues. I was helping out. I also was fortunate enough to get the landscaping contract for the Reliance Federal Savings Bank. Met Randy Nielsen, who was really just a very nice person. I would just call him a beautiful person. And he was nice enough to get me landscaping contracts for some of the builders that Reliance was financing. And we grew close, and we would talk, and I would go back to him and I'd say, Randy, you know, I appreciate you getting me the work here, but these jobs are all screwed up. They're putting the toilets in before the drywall is on the wall, and I'm concerned, Randy, because you're the bank in here. And as our relationship evolved, Randy one day said to me, you know, between what you're doing with the condominiums and helping out with the construction issues, I had actually started a management company for condominiums besides my landscaping company. If you could ever find a piece of land, we would be interested in doing a joint venture. Joint ventures were the way the banks went at that time, which was really the mid-'80s.
So what happens is, at that time, you're a kid doing rather well. You were living in the hamlet, right? And Randy, you find this piece of land, and at that time you met this other guy who was building these 1 or 2 family homes, Les Lerner, and forget Xanadu, you create the Beechwood Organization.
Well, I met Les Lerner, and we became very good friends in the original hamlet in Jericho in the 1980s. And what was interesting is Les and I were both there for a reason. It wasn't typical for a young guy in his 20s or young couples to live in condominiums at that time, but we both believed it was a good real estate investment. So we moved in and we met each other, and it was a casual conversation where I said to Les, you know, this bank I do landscaping for has indicated they'd have some willingness to do a joint venture. If I could find a piece of land, would you be interested in working on this together? And we did, and eventually we found a piece of land. It was 18 6,000 square foot lots in East Meadow on Long Island, and it was quite interesting. You know, the bank put up the lion's share of the money, but even it was hard for us to come up with, I think, our total investment of about $60,000 between Les and I.
You had to sell your car.
I did sell my beloved Corvette, but that's fine. So I did sell the car, and we came up with the money, and we built the job and sold it out in about 6 months, and it was very, very successful. And we kind of on our way.
So the next job that you did out on the island with Reliance, give me some story about the jobs that you did with Reliance.
Well, we went, from that job we did 12 luxury homes in North Hills, which is a very exclusive town in Nassau County. And again, it was very, very successful. And as we were doing that job, this was really our big break. Another piece of land at the corner of the Long Island Expressway and Shelter Rock Road, a busy intersection out there. It was 35 acres, came on the market, and we were able to convince Reliance Federal to do a joint venture on that site. Les and I were really still at this point in our late 20s, and that job was towards the tail end of the real estate boom in the 1980s.
So after that, how did you get to the New York City partnership to start building from luxury homes in North Hills to Bushwick and to other sections?
Well, it was really interesting. You know, for two guys in their late 20s, when we opened up the job in North Hills, it was called Spruce Pond at North Hills. The Mercedes and the Jaguars and the Cadillacs were lined up waiting to get in and buy, and people were rushing in and buying. I think we had projected to sell the units for about $375,000. We were selling them for about $500,000, and people couldn't really make the deals fast enough. Les and I used to wake up, you know, every weekend and have a conversation.
Pinch yourself saying, is it real? Is it real?
Well, that's why we went to Bushwick. We didn't feel it could really be real and it was sustainable, and I think we were both grounded enough to understand that this really couldn't go on and it wasn't sustainable. So about that time we heard of the New York City Housing Partnership having a program where they would solicit developers and they would more or less make the land available to them. The developers had to go out and get their own bank financing, and there would be subsidies if they would create housing for first-time home buyers. So I remember specifically driving from North Hills, which is very luxurious, to Bushwick, Brooklyn, and really only a half hour or so by car if you didn't hit traffic, but an entirely different environment. And the first lot we looked at was for about 50 houses, and it was litter strewn. There were people on the site using drugs. It was not a pretty picture, but nonetheless we felt it would be prudent to not have all our eggs in the luxury basket.
So what was the first project? How big of a deal?
These were on George Street in Bushwick. It was 51 two-family homes. Really led to a revitalization over time and a tremendous improvement in the area. But we built these 51 homes, and it really...
Now these were 51 two-family homes, correct?
51 two-family homes, and we really loved the experience because we found when you built a luxury home, people, oh, if a tile fell off the wall, they wanted to sue you. But when you built a home for somebody and you got them out of an apartment, out of poor living conditions, and gave them the pride of home ownership, they would thank you sometimes with tears in their eyes. So it was a really moving experience.
How much were the price of these homes for the first-time homeowner?
I think at that time they were about $175,000.
For the two-family?
For the two-family, and they had a rental income.
They had a rental income, which was great. So then you did some homes, before we get back to the island, you also did homes in East New York, I think, right? We
did homes in Williamsburg, and we built in total around 1,200 units, about 602 families, each one having 2 units, throughout Bushwick and Williamsburg from the late 80s pretty much through to the late 90s.
Right. Now, in the mid-90s, the S&L crisis and all the other situation, building homes wasn't a major, easy accomplishment for you.
We're really very proud of the fact that we never once had to go to a bank and say, gee, we have a problem here, we can't sell the houses, we overpaid for the land. You know, the S&L crisis in the 80s The problem was people were buying land and going to the closing table and putting money in their pocket. They were financing 110% of the land. We would not buy a piece of land just because there was easy financing available. We really had to believe in the property. So what we were doing in the market rate housing, all of our projects sold. We were able to adjust our prices without getting in trouble and still either breaking even or making a profit. So we really were okay at that time. And you know, fast forwarding, I find we're in the same position now. We didn't overpay for land.
Right, but what I'm saying is, in the mid-'90s and the late '90s, you started building these other large developments. You went into Manorville, you went into Melville. Let's talk a little bit about those developments.
Yeah, just the point was, one point before we get into that is the two-family house market is a very strong market regardless of the economy. Unfortunately, we had a lot of the housing partnership work when it wasn't feasible to pursue new housing, so, you know, market rate housing. So our company always had work, and we were productive in putting people in homes. And then we got to, you know, the mid-'90s, '94, '95, when we felt we could jump back in and start producing market rate housing as well as affordable housing.
And let's talk about some of the developments you did in the island.
Well, my focus has always been not to just build a home, but to try and create a neighborhood and create a lifestyle. And we branded a product out there called Country Point. Most of these were gated communities with a clubhouse, sometimes mixed use. Sometimes they would have single-family homes, townhomes. Sometimes they would be single-family home.
Were they age-restricted?
With an age-restricted component. Sometimes it would be an age-restricted product, but very well received. And it's just great. You know, it's one thing to sell somebody a home, but it's great to, you know that you've impacted their life. They're in a new community. They're making new friends. Their kids are making new friends. And we've built dozens of communities around the island like that.
So let's fast forward, because, you know, besides, I mean, you've built 5,500 homes since the existence, which has sales value in excess of $2.6 billion. Let's go towards, you know, Auburn, because I think that's a very important thing. You know, I remember being in the Army Reserve, and I was in Fort Tilden, which was at the end of Far Rockaway, at the end of Reese Park, and we would ride down towards Auburn, and it was 30 years ago or 35 years ago, and it was the pits. There was nothing there. And now people say, I remember Rockaway. You know, there were bungalows, there were interesting things. You know, my grandparents were there, but when you went to Auburn, there was nothing. Let's talk about that.
Auburn is a really life-changing experience. We have 125 acres on the ocean. It's one thing, you know, when you live in Manhattan, you have a view of the water, but here you live on the ocean. It's the same ocean that is in New Jersey and the same ocean that's in the Hamptons, and it's pristine and it's beautiful. Obviously, you know, we're kind of aware of the history. There were bungalows. It was a resort destination early on in the 1900s. It fell fallow by the mid-1900s. Decade after decade, there was promise of redevelopment there. Companies came and went and never lived up to their promise. We were fortunate enough to have the opportunity when the city asked for proposals around 2000 to put in a proposal. Even more fortunate enough to be selected, and the renaissance and the change that we brought down there, and they were not just creating a community.
So for my audience, let's say where, you know, Auburn by the Sea is, the location, the streets, and what you've built so far, and what you're planning to build.
Well, we've built two-family homes. We've built mid-rise condo apartment buildings. We will be breaking ground shortly on a 30,000-foot YMCA state-of-the-art facility. There's another component where Stop and Shop is opening, a super Stop and Shop. There's a retail component. There's a charter school. There are pocket parks throughout the community. It's all in the ocean, and to date we've built about 600 or 700 units and put in a good part of the roadwork network, and they're gorgeous waterfront.
Now, how many units are planned when it's completed in your development?
There will be 2,300 dwelling units in that development.
And most of these units were basically affordable. The original units were affordable units.
We did a component, some mid-rise affordable buildings, but no, to the contrary. The bulk of the job will be market rate, and market rate right now is $600,000 and up for a two-family home. It sounds like a lot, but remember, you get a rental income, which is credit towards your mortgage. You get tax abatement. You don't need to own 2 cars. You don't even need to own 1 car because you buy a subway stop. And you get the other tax benefits, such as writing off your mortgage. People are moving there, and we've sold throughout this downturn because when they crunch the numbers, it pays to live there, but it's a phenomenal place to raise a family.
But isn't there also a lottery situation for certain people? They have to have certain income category?
There was for the affordable housing. Yes, we had a lottery for that. That is completed and done, and now the bulk of it is really a market rate job.
And how many affordable? Because, you know, New York City, as you did in Bushwick, Williamsburg, is very important to have the affordable component.
Well, at this time, the affordable component was about 300 units. It may be further down the line we'll add an affordable component, but the bulk of this project is market rate housing.
So let's leave the Rockaways and let's go to a place that perhaps when you were growing up you may have frequented, Roosevelt Raceway. What does Mike Dubb do now at the former site of the grandstand of Roosevelt Raceway?
Well, being a horse racing aficionado, I'm building 720 units, and I really tell people I'm just building them to get even for my misspent youth and the money lost at Roosevelt Raceway. But a 52-acre parcel in the middle of Nassau County, the largest rezoning that's been completed in Nassau County since Levittown, create a community, a self-contained community that has a lot of the components of smart growth. People don't need to leave as much. They don't need to use their cars. 25,000-foot clubhouse that has a spa and salon in it, a sundry shop where they can go for a cup of coffee, a sports bar with 17 TVs, and all different types of housing units ranging from about 1,000 feet to 3,000 feet.
Now, the interesting thing over there is many of the age-restricted communities start at age 55. This you were able to change to 48.
Well, it's very rare you could use the word logic and government in the same sentence, but I was able to go to town government and explain to them that this community was intended for people who don't have children. There are a lot of people, such as myself, who are not yet 55, but empty nesters, and why restrict them so long as they didn't have kids? And the town was able to see the logic in that, and it's really 48 and over so long as you don't have kids that attend the school system, the public school.
So let's now, before I get back to Long Island, because I know you're working on Yaphank, let's talk, you're now in Shore Haven. So now you go to the Bronx. What are you doing in the Bronx?
Well, the Bronx has really been a phenomenal experience. And people who live in the Bronx love the Bronx, and that's left unsaid a lot. You know, people, they make a little fun of the Bronx, and they shouldn't. It's a wonderful place to live. We have a parcel, it's a former swim club that we've redeveloped with a total of about 800 units of housing, a 20,000-foot clubhouse with a daycare facility. It's got a gatehouse, and it's got an esplanade around it. A tennis court will be built. A basketball court will be built.
And is this a combination of 1- and 2-family homes?
Yes, it's 1-2 family homes. The one-family homes are condominium apartments, so it's condominium, one-family condominiums.
So what is the price of a one-family condominium?
It ranges from depending on the location, because these are right on the water with spectacular views of Manhattan, from about $360 to $450.
And the two-family homes?
Two-family homes are sold out.
So let's now go to Yaphank. I mean, now you like the track. Did you like hockey also, or baseball?
Oh, I love hockey and I love baseball, yeah.
Yeah, so what are you doing in Yaphank?
Well, the county executive in Yaphank is trying to address a couple issues in one full swoop. They have 250 acres of land right off the Long Island Expressway, so it's centrally located. Out on Long Island, we have what we call the brain drain. People are leaving. They can't find decent housing to live in. It's very expensive. They're living in illegal apartments. They're living in their parents' basement. So the county executive asked for an RFP that took in a lot of components. He wanted about 1,000 units of housing for what we call next generation, to keep people on Long Island. These are houses that in the market will sell from about $200,000 to $300,000. That will be affordable, but not just rows of houses. This will be a community with a village green and a general store and a real nice country feel to it.
And what about the stadium?
Then he asked for a stadium, which is on 35 acres. He'd like to attract a minor league hockey team. We have the Ducks out on Long Island, very, very successful minor league franchise. Minor league hockey games are a lot of fun. We have a lot of teams interested. He'd like a destination for Suffolk County, similar to Nassau County having the Coliseum. And there's another component. We're looking to build the largest solar field in the Northeast to generate our own electricity for this facility. And another component that'll have about 1 million feet for research and development. Stony Brook Hospital, Brookhaven National Lab. Those are the type of people we're hoping to attract.
Let's talk about, you have 3 children, right?
Yes.
And one of them is working with you right now.
That's correct.
He went to the NYU Real Estate Institute?
Yes, he did.
And tell me about your 2 other. You have a son and 2 daughters, their names?
My son Stephen is 24 years old. He spent about 18 months at Credit Suisse in their real estate department and got quite an education experience, and he's an asset to have with me because so much of real estate is about finance today. My oldest daughter is a senior at UPenn. Her name is Tracy. She's majoring in urban studies and loves it. She's been lectured by some people that I respect, like Bob Toll, you know, so she gets a good background, a good education for planning. And my youngest daughter is a freshman at University of Pennsylvania.
So I'd say in your exceptionally distinguished career, building 5,500 homes and growing, building a lot of affordable homes, creating a lot of communities, you're truly a builder of New York, and I'd like to thank you for being here today.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Major funding for this program is made possible by grants from Bank of America and Perfect Building Maintenance, GREENBERG TRAURIG, LLP, New York Community Bank, Kilroy Metal Products, New York Window Company, Capital One Bank. Additional funding for this program is made possible by grants from Akron Gold Brothers, LLC, Briarwood Organization, C.B. Richard ELLIS, Cushman & Wakefield, First American Title Insurance Company of New York, F.J. SCIAME, FRIEDMAN LLP, Gemini Real Estate Advisors, Hal Fettner Durst Fettner Residential, James D. Kuhn Real Estate Institute at Syracuse University, James Orphanides, Madison Realty Capital, Meridian Capital Group, M&T Bank, Massey Knackle Realty Services, Muss Development, NEWMARK Knight Frank, Sterling and Sterling, Stonehenge Partners, the Moynihan Group, Urban American, W Financial Mortgage Fund.